may be seated. We're going to go back because we didn't. Sorry. Yeshu say Israel Yom Yisrael Shaddai Yisrael and Maladi Ney Maxim Tzedos Yom Yaftach Like Yatzilch Mibach Yishum Deva Vayis Bem Yisrael Yosef Lachazach Tzimov Tachasat Tzino Tzinav Seich Amita Like Siram Yipad Like Siram Vach Alay Lam Chayz Vuf Yom Deva Like Yad Like Miket Yeshut Zorim Yibam Tzitcha Elef Uvodom Mimi Nacha Lach Alay Goshak and Nachasab Yivish Mas Shimter Dadi Ney Maxay Israel Yom Zamtem Yom Zamtem Yom Nechal Like Sunay Lach Yom Negel Kav Yom Lach Yimalach Yitzab Lach Yishmach Bechol Devachecho Akabayim Sovim Chaveting Av Bem Lach Shach Mizlezen Tidvei The most vivid sign Kivi Choshak Vach Alatayos Agaveyu Ki Yod Hashemi Ve'enu Ve'eneyu Kivi Neich Mitzarech Al Tzei V'chav Deyo Yom Mas V'yeyu Ve'yeyu Yeshuasi Yesh B'sei Yisrael Yitzal Shaddai Yisrael Yom Avinu Maxim Tzedos Yom Yaftach V'ki Yatzil Tzach V'ki Deva V'ek Bem So Yetzach V'Tzachas V'Nok Tach V'Setzina V'Seich V'Mito L'Sim B'ach Aloyim V'Chei Tzvuk V'Mem Deva V'Yad Loich Get the V'Shut Zorim Yibom Tzitcha Elef V'Vovim Minech Alech Alei Goshav V'Nechos Abdi V'Shum Mas Shvim Ter Yivot V'Chach V'Yel V'Tzam V'Nech Choshak v'Alatayos Agaveyu Ki Yod Hashemi Ve'enu Ve'eneyu Minayich Mitzarech Al Tzei V'chav Deyo Yechim Mas V'yeyu Ve'yeyu Yeshuasi Yesh B'sei Yisrael Yitzal Shaddai Yisrael and Maladi Ney Maxim Tzedos Yom Yaftach Like Yatzilch Mibach Yishum Deva V'Yisrael So Yetzach V'Chazachas V'Nok Tachaseh Tzinu V'Seich V'Amita L'Sim B'ach Aloyim L'Chei Tzvuk V'Mem Deva V'Yadach Miket V'Shut Zorim Yibom Tzitcha Elef V'Vovim V'Necho Elech Aloi Goshav V'Nechas Abid Shmas Shem Tereg V'Adim Maxi El Yom Zamtem V'Yinecho V'Yisunei Elech V'Yol V'Negel L'Yikra V'Yol Lech V'Yimalach V'Yisab V'Loch T'Shmoch V'Chol V'Chech V'Chol V'Chol Asach V'Vezen Tedo is most vivid sign Kivi Choshak V'Alatayos Agaveyu Ki Yod Hashemi Yekeini V'Eneyu Minayich Mitzarech Al Tzei V'chav Deyo Eyech Yemi Mas V'Yeyu V'Yeyu Yeshuasi Adinei Mo Adom Teida Eyu Ben Enosh V'Tachshav Eyu Odom Lehevel Domo Yotzmav Ketzel Iver Zvantem Shenoy Yeyu B'Abayke Kachatzi Yachaloif B'Abayke Yitzis V'Chalof Le'ev Yimalel V'Yavesh Imagine this ain't them Shivim Shana V'Im B'Gvua Shmeinim Shana V'Yob B'Mama V'Ava and Kigos Chish V'Nufa L'Mnoi Sumenu Kein Hoida V'Novni L'Vav Chochmo Shmor Tom V'Ei Yoshak Yach Visli Shalom Achilihim Yiftan Nafshim Yad Sha'ol Ki Kecheni Selo Peda Adonai Nevesh Avodov Yeshmu Kol Chaysim Boy Yeshay V'Alfa Al Ores Kishehoya V'Ruach Toshur Al Elohim Asher Nisano God, what is man that you recognize him, or the Son of Man that you deal with him? Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow. You flood them away, they become sleep-like. By morning they are like grass which withers. In the morning it blossoms and is renewed, and in the evening it is cold and dries out. The days of my years among them 70, and with strength 80. The proudest success is but toil and trouble, for it is cut off that we swiftly depart. Teach us to number our days, so that we may acquire a heart of wisdom. Fix your attention on the perfect man, for the end of that man is peace. But surely God will ransom my soul from the grave, for he will receive me indeed. God redeems the soul of his servants, and those who take refuge in him will not be guilty. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but its spirit returns to God who gave it. Here to give the last parting honor to David Golger, David ben Pinchas, who lived a fruitful life with many years, 96 years, long years. A fruitful life with a number of children and stepchildren, and a fruitful life with kind deeds. A compassionate person, ready to step in to help someone in need, whether he was from his walk of life or not. Yesterday, Philip mentioned about this British soldier drowning before 1948, and so had intention Israelis and the British, and yet he saved his life at this beach. And many other areas of compassion, when it wasn't the tide of the time, he was willing to step in to help people, opened up his heart for others. Not only did he have compassion, he was also a giving person, giving with his money to help his family through school, but more importantly, with strengthening them emotionally, strengthening them with words. A man of humor, always had humorous something to say, sharing his life anecdotes to be able to improve someone else's life situation. It reminds me of this first verse of this week's parsha. The first verse says, this shall be the reward when you hearken to these ordinances and observe and perform them. Hashem your God will safeguard you from the covenant and for the kindness that he swore to your forefathers. There's a special safeguard that God has for his covenant and the kindness. Talmud Yerushalmi, written a few hundred years before the standard Talmud, derives from this verse, Hashem guards kindness. That's as three character traits of the Jewish people. Rachmanim, Baishanim, V'goyim L'chasodim. They're compassionate. Rachmanim, Baishanim, they're bashful. It's hard for them to stand up and do something wrong. V'goyim L'chasodim, they perform chesed and kindness to others. These are three character traits of the Jewish people, and throughout the years, Rachmanim and Baishanim have dwindled a little, that people are not as compassionate perhaps, and people are not as bashful to do the wrong thing. But Goyim L'chasodim is something which has lived on, and that's what the Yerushalmi derives from this pasuk, that Hashem will guard the chesed. Hashem will guard that the Jewish people will be a people of kindness, will be a people of chesed, people of kindness, giving to others. Here, David Golger lived a long life. He was both Rachmanim, he was from the compassionate, opened up his heart to others, and he was Rachmanim, Goyim L'chasodim, performing kindness for others in all situations of life. He grew up in Yempel, Russia, came over to Palestine pre-war when he was very young. His family had to flee. They were from the communists. They were something successful over there with the mill and had to do with the army. They had to run from the communists and ran to join his mother's family in Palestine. He grew up there, and as a young man, he helped the cause when the World War II started. He was very young, and he fought in the 8th Corps, I believe, stationed in Italy and North Africa, helping the world with his talent. And then after the World War II, he was joined the Haganah to help the Jewish people in the state of Israel and fought for the War of Independence. And he was always a man of vigor, able to try to push himself to the max. He joined Maccabi Soccer, being the goalie, even though he was shorter than the average height of a goalie. He was 5'6", 5'7". He was pushing himself to the max, always trying to maximize his potential in all areas for others, for himself, to maximize himself in life. Came to America in the 1950s to the University of Texas to pursue his education, and then he came visiting Cleveland. He met his wife Esther and developed raised a family in Bendemeer in Cleveland Heights, a Shemesh Shabbos house with keeping kosher, helping other people in need. In the 1980, he had 4 children, and unfortunately one passed away young in a car accident. Then 1984, I believe, Esther passed away, and in 1986 he married to Thelma and joined their family and was accepted there, well liked, and acted as a true father and grandfather. In 1970, he expanded his care to the public, and the influx of the Russians. They were coming in from Russia, not knowing the language so well. They had to have translations. So he was a master of 4 languages: English, Hebrew, Russian, and Arabic. And he was able to translate. Spent a lot of time dedicated to help other people, help the Jewish people, help his friends. Not some Holocaust survivors who were not so well educated and due to their plight in life, and he was there for his people to help them. He was a person who helped, stood there to help other people, and continued on. Lived 96 years of life. He pushed himself to the max. He was a shoe retail shoes, and he even until 90 till into mid 80s he kept pushing himself to work more. Enjoyed being active, an active person, giving person. He used to tell his family when they studied history that he's studying American history. My history is the Bible. That's his. My history is the Bible. That's his history. But what's the future? The history is the Bible. What's our future? The future is our mitzvahs. He would dedicate himself a life to keep Shabbos, keep kosher. Shabbos demonstrates that God is the master of the world. Will march his marching orders. We keep ourselves vital and alive with what he says we should eat, and that's between him and God, him and everyone else, that he was willing to open up his heart, his compassion, his mercy for everyone, his kindness he shared with the world to be a living legacy.
In the last few days, as I was trying to reflect on my father's life, I took out pictures, many of the pictures that we had from growing up. I took some of them and I laid them down in a chronological order, from his youth to adulthood to his life as a senior. And I looked on them and I reflected. I saw youth when I looked at his youth. I saw someone who came over, a vibrant personality, a young personality. I looked at his pictures, as the rabbi had indicated, as a soccer player, a goalie. One who did not fit the size of a goalie, yet excelled due to his athleticism and his focus. I then looked, as he looked down at the picture of his military career, a reflection. And he lived a part of life we can only experience from the history books, the creation of the state of Israel. I saw those pictures. I saw his time in the Israeli Defense Forces, fighting in the War of Independence, which reflected his bravery and his commitment. I then saw an individual who came to the States to explore further opportunities, who came as a student to the University of Texas. He had an incident where there was a segregationist time, and he was at a bench and he saw an African-American woman, somewhat in distress, standing, and he offered for her to sit next to him at a time that was not acceptable and also raised a level of concern. As time progressed, he focused on his retail business, where his efforts. He worked hard, he dedicated the time, and became successful and a part owner in the business. He then went on in his life. He grew his family. In the 50s, when he met my mom, and he grew a family, a father committed to helping his children, focused on family needs, regardless of where the time took him. He was always there. He always tried to help us and guide us. He was fortunate as he became a senior and he met Thorpe. It was love and joy and appreciation that the family welcomed him in. It made his senior years very warm and endearing. Now, everybody kind of knows, as a reflect, my dad was one of, my dad's focus was, my dad always had, I would say, strong beliefs. My dad had a slight temperament. But one of the things, and like I said, he was strong-willed. In fact, I remember one time driving him, where I had to take him to somewhere, didn't know the location, put the navigation on in the car in the system. Of course, my dad's way is make a right. I'd say, Dad, the navigation system is telling him to go straight. The response was, who are you going to believe, me or the car? So that was his way. But as I reflect back on those pictures and his stories, which he shared with everybody, his life experiences, those which we can only imagine, all of which I can only imagine the challenges in what he experienced. But it kind of created his values and his moral compass. And one of the things that I'd like to share, if I can, not so much reflected in the pictures, but reflected in my mind, the man I knew, was his compassion. It may not come out in his stories, it may not be seen in the pictures, what I saw. I had the honor in the last couple of years to help manage his affairs, and I was amazed by the amount of groups, the donations, and the organizations he was contributing to. Many Jewish and some secular. But I was totally amazed by his commitment to give. The rabbi expounded on one, but there were 3 stories that to me exemplify his compassion. In 47, when he was under the British control, and of course the British did detain him as a member of the Haganah at one point, but he had an experience where he did see at the beach a British soldier who was in distress and actually in serious trouble. There were a couple of his comrades there who said, "It's British." He didn't think twice. He did go and save him, for which he was given a citation by the British government. A few years later, I expressed what he did in terms of the conversations. Last but not least, a simple story, but one that is a picture of my mind. We had this cat that used to hang around the house, probably a stray, probably because me and my sisters fed him. So the cat would continue to come by, not until I came. But one day the cat shows up severely wounded. It had experienced serious wounds, and my dad took that cat, intended to its needs. My sister told me that my dad did service medic in the army, which made me so happy. So he took that cat in and tended to its needs. And over time, he actually cared for the cat. Probably a couple months later, my dad would take a walk around the block, in the neighborhood, and my dad was taking a walk, and that cat appeared. That cat saw my dad. My dad called over to it. The cat walked over my dad, and the cat, as hard it was for me to grasp, but this the one picture in my mind, walked with my dad. It's complete walk. And to me, that the animals perceive kindness and caring. That cat saw in my dad what I want to reflect to you. His compassion and love for people.
Grandpa Dave, you are the most generous, kind, sweet, and funny grandpa, with a remarkable story. As kids, you always played with us, bounced us on your knee, and beamed with pride at all of our accomplishments, no matter how small they were. We remember your delicious stew that you cooked with love, and your boisterous singing during Hanukkah, as you proudly sang the March of the Maccabees. Grandpa Dave, you were the most giving, selfless grandpa. We love you, and you will be very greatly missed, with all the love from your grandchildren.
So we would, the traditionally you don't put
You stay young. If you work.
Yeah.
You want to work on both sides?
And this is my son. We grew up next to
Oh, really? Anita was a smiler. When she wasn't, doing too much with the kids, she was funny and happy. But yeah, and your dad, I also used to see him breathing. He took care of us together. And so I would so I would see your dad then. That was always nice. Yeah, I do.
Anybody waiting, you're welcome to
I have
come
one
on this side.
son, he's getting married in September.
Just right
Yeah,
along
he's
the
a psychiatrist, and it's a great idea. He's gonna take care of me.
There's some behind the waiting. Nice hard surface. Scrape it around.
Okay, we'll cover it.
All right? That's your thought.
There we go. Now say it's in the garden. Plan God's justice. Hatzor tamim pa'olai kichol d'rochav mishpat el avinav ein avel tzadik v'yoshahu. Hatzor tamim b'chol pa'yam ma'yem ma'al mi yemele ma'pal tifol. Asal v'matu v'ma'al v'emis m'chayim ma'u v'shol v'yol. Hatzor tamim b'chol m'aseh mi yem ma'al loif ma'taseh. Ha'ime v'aiseh chesed chinam lo m'taseh. V'schus ha'nekat keseh ha'kshiva v'aseh. Tadi b'chol d'rochav hatzor tamim. Erech ha'payim m'molei rachamim. Chamon over chusna al obeis ubanim, ki l'cha adoin haslichos v'rachamim. Tzadik atah adinoi l'hamis l'hachayois, asher b'yodcha diktoin kol ruchois, chalila l'cha zechinenu limchois, yunav necha v'rachamim oleinu v'kuchois. L'cha adoin rachamim haslichos, odom ben shona yiyeh, el shona v'yichiyeh, Ayisoi loi ki loi hoya v'yiyeh, roch dain v'emes memes v'chayeh, roch adol ki emes dinoi, m'shoydet hakol v'einoi, Shalom lo odem cheshboine v'dinoi v'akol l'shmoi h'doyo yitim. V'danu adonai ki tzadek b'shvotecho, tzitzak b'dvoyecho v'tizke b'shoftecho, v'ein l'har racham midas v'chshefotecho, tzadik ato adonai v'yoshoi mishpotecho. Dain emes shoyfet tzadek v'emes, baruch dain ha'emes shekol mishpoto tzadek v'emes, nefesh kol chai b'yodecho tzadek mal'al yimincho v'yodcho, hachim al ha'pleita sein yodecho, tevi me'lamalach heref yodecho. Gedol ha'etz of Yav Aliliyah, asher yenecha b'kuchais halakol derechei b'nei Adam, lasis ha'ish gedrocha b'chudim al olav, l'hagit ki yosha Adonai tzui v'lerech al v'laso boi, Adonai nosan v'Adonai lokach, yehi shem Adonai mevoyoch, v'hu yachim yechapi ovim l'yashris, v'bol l'shiv apoi v'leikoch ha'mosoi. The Rak, perfect in his work, for all his paths are justice, a God of faithfulness, without iniquity, righteous and upright is he. The Rak, perfect in his work, who will say to him, what have you done? To the one who rules below and above, who causes to die and who revives, brings down to the grave and raises up. The Rak, perfect in every deed, who will say to him, what do you do? To the one who declares and does, do undeserved kindness with us, in the merit of the one who bound like a sheep, hearken and act. Righteous is in all his paths the perfect Rak, slow to anger and full with mercy. I beg you to take pity and compassion on fathers and children, for you, master of our forgiveness and mercy. Righteous are you, Hashem, to cause death and revive it, for it in your hand is the safekeeping of all spirits. It will be sacrilegious for you to erase our memory. May your eyes gaze upon us with mercy, for you are the master of mercy and forgiveness. A man, whether he lives 1 year or he lives 1,000 years, what does it profit him? As if he has never been, shall be. Blessed is the true judge who causes death and revives. Blessed is he, for his judgment is true. He casts his eyes upon all and rewards man according to his account and his judgment. All must give acknowledgement to his name. We know, Hashem, that your judgment is just. You are righteous with your words and pure with your judgments. And there is no questioning the attribute of your judgment. Righteous are you, Hashem, and upright is all your judgments. True judge, judge of righteousness and truth. Blessed is the true judge. All his judgments are righteous and true. The soul of all living is in your hand. Your right hand is filled with righteousness. You have mercy on the remainder of your sheep in your hand, and say to the angel of death, withdraw your hand. Great in counsel and abundant in deed, whose eyes are who gaze on all paths of man, to give a man according to his path and according to the fruits of his deeds. To recount that Hashem is upright, he is my Rak, in whom there is no wrong. Hashem gave and Hashem took, let the name of Hashem be blessed. He, the merciful one, atones iniquity and does not destroy. He exerts great restraint and does not arousing his full mercy. There's a Kaddish, as I said.
said at the same time?
Hail Mole will now be said. Hail Mole Yachamim Shechem Amiyoimim Hamsem Nucha Nuchayna Aval Kanfei Ashchina Imalois Kedoshim Utahayim Gezayar V'Kiyam Azivim Es Nishmas David ben Pinchas Sholach li olam mai Bavush mishpachtai Titein tzedakah b'yad azkoyas nishmasai Ganei den menuchasai L'chein Ba'al yachamim Yasiveyu b'seisei kinavof Av liyai lamim V'yitzra b'tzar chayim es nishmasai Adonai Nachalasai Yenuach b'shalom ha'mishkavai v'nemai amen. God full of mercy who dwells on high, grant proper rest on the wings of the divine presence in the lofty levels of the holy and pure who shine in the brightness of the firmament. For the soul of David ben Pinchas, the son of Pinchas, who went to his world, whose family will give tzedakah in the remembrance of his soul. May his resting be in Gan Eden. Therefore may the Master of Mercy shelter him in the shelter of his wings, and may he bind his soul in the bond of life. Hashem is his inheritance, and may his repose be in peace on his resting place. And let us say Amen.
Amen.
Final process is the final cancellation of making 2 rows, one of men, one of women, and the mourners will pass through. We'll give so all the men could go to one side, all the women to the other side.
Back up along the path behind the tent.
If you back up along the path a little bit, we'll have more open room.
Okay, I think we're the ones that we go through. Oh, okay.
So
Yes, you'll go through the